My elder sister stole my credit, falsely claiming she was the one who saved the scholar. Father admired the scholar's character and arranged for my elder sister to marry him as his primary wife. Meanwhile, I caught the Prince of Nanyang's eye and became a favored concubine in his household. Little did we know that after passing the imperial examination at 14, the scholar never succeeded again. With a mother-in-law fierce as a tigress at home, my elder sister wasted her life away. Through my son, I gained status by virtue of my child and rose to become the principal wife of the prince's mansion, living in great wealth and honor. My elder sister, filled with regret and resentment, stabbed me to death with a golden hairpin and then took her own life. When I opened my eyes, we were both reborn. This time, my elder sister pushed me toward the scholar first, taking no credit. This lifetime, the position of princess consort can only be mine. I smiled. She couldn't possibly think life in the prince's mansion would be easier than in an ordinary household. It was my sister who saved him. I saw it with my own eyes. The moment the words left my mouth, I knew my elder sister had also been reborn. My stepmother pulled her forward in surprise, raising her voice. "Warner, what nonsense are you spouting? You were the one who saved him." I stood by, coldly laughing. Indeed, my stepmother wasn't my birth mother. Naturally, she would scheme for a better life for her own flesh and blood. In my past life, the eldest sister, captivated by the scholar's good looks, coveted him and stole my credit, claiming she was the rescuer. To prevent me from revealing the truth, the stepmother had me poisoned into silence, robbing me of my voice forever. The eldest sister not only gained a reputation for kindness but also married the promising scholar, reaping every possible benefit. But I became a mute girl. By 18, no suitors had come calling, and I became the laughingstock of others' idle chatter. At that moment, the elder sister shook off her mother's hand and repeated the truth with unwavering certainty. No, it truly was my younger sister who saved him. Warner is telling the truth. The stepmother frowned, about to speak again, but was cut off by father. Father glanced at the scholar kneeling in gratitude, then looked at me and said simply, "Tainer is a good child." I knew father had already set his mind on arranging the marriage. The moment father finished speaking, I saw my elder sister's lips curl into a secret smile. As we left, she looked at me with disdain. Her voice lowered as she boasted, "Su Ruatang, this time it's my turn to marry into the prince's household." Facing my elder sister's confident expression, I smiled. Surely she doesn't believe the Prince of Nanyang is truly as virtuous as he appears? In my previous life, my sister coveted the scholar's good looks and stole my credit. Father, impressed by the scholar's integrity and honesty, believed he would treat my elder sister well and arrange the marriage between our families. But who could have known? While the scholar himself was genuinely kind, his mother was anything but easy to deal with. Relying on her son's status as a scholar, she acted like a high and mighty mother-in-law from a wealthy Beijing family, constantly trying to impose rules on my elder sister. Though the scholar achieved fame young, he never passed the imperial examinations again by age 30, let alone held any official post. After being poisoned into silence, I remained unmarried. One day, while out in the streets, my sedan chair accidentally collided with the carriage of the Prince of Nanyang. The prince glanced at me and promptly sent envoys to claim me as his noble concubine. Later, my elder sister lived in poverty for half her life. After miscarrying while enforcing those rules, she damaged her health and remains childless to this day, compounded by a fierce, rustic mother-in-law. She wasted away day after day, looking old and faded by 25. I, however, bore the eldest son. Through my son's status, I rose to become the most honored lady of the Nanyang prince's household. My elder sister was convinced I had stolen her life. So in this lifetime, she pushed me forward, certain that this time, the one destined for glory and wealth would be her. When the scholar, his face flushed, asked if I was the one who saved him, I recalled the savage look in the Prince of Nanyang's eyes as he choked me, and a chill ran down my spine. Then, I calmly nodded to the scholar, watching my elder sister visibly relax. I darkened my gaze. She only saw my outward splendor, unaware of the suffering I endured behind closed doors. Elder sister, this path was your own choice. You crave this wealth and honor? I'll see if you even live long enough to enjoy it. Just like in my past life, father betrothed me to the scholar Pei. On the day of the betrothal gifts, Pei blushed the moment he saw me. Though his offerings weren't extravagant, they met the formal requirements, 3 letters and 6 gifts, and he even added an extra set of makeup as a gesture of respect. My elder sister's eyes flashed with disdain at the modest gifts, her expression saying, "Just as I expected." I knew, however, that Pei had done his utmost to procure them for me. When we exchanged birth charts, merely the touch of my fingertip to his sent his ears blush crimson once more. Scholar Pei is far too easily embarrassed. With the betrothal gifts accepted and birth charts exchanged, the marriage was formally settled. The elders withdrew from the banquet hall, leaving us alone. Silence hung heavy between us until Pei finally broke the quiet. Stiff-necked and stammering, he bowed to me. Miss Su, thank you for saving my life that day. I have no way to repay you. So watching his comically flushed face, I covered my mouth with a handkerchief and couldn't stifle a laugh. What exactly do you want? To pledge yourself to me? But clearly, I'm the one marrying you. After I spoke, Scholar Pei's face flushed even redder. All right. I'll stop teasing him. I invited him to sit down, and we chatted in a disjointed manner. In my past life, I knew little about Pei, but as a husband personally chosen by my father for my elder sister, his character was undoubtedly good. Pei was pure-hearted, and now it seemed he truly was. After the Pei family selected an auspicious date for the wedding, both households began preparing for the ceremony. I stayed at home awaiting the marriage, but my elder sister frequently came looking for trouble. Today, as soon as I returned to my room, I saw her stomping on the wedding fabrics I'd been given, shredding them to pieces. Seeing me, she showed no remorse, instead acting as if it were perfectly justified. Standing on the scraps, she looked at me haughtily. You're marrying into an ordinary family. What use does a country bumpkin have for such fine things? What are you staring at? What? You disagree? She stared at me, her confidence unfounded, convinced I'd let her bully me. The next second, my hand struck her face. Yes. I'm not satisfied. My mother was the legitimate wife of this household. Had she not passed away early, and had concubine Shu not been elevated as the new wife, Su Ruowan would have remained a secondary daughter. Now that our statuses are equal, what right does she have to lord over me? My elder sister seemed unwilling to back down, raising her hand in fury to strike back. Then I slapped her again. If mother couldn't even raise her own daughter properly, she should step down from her position as matriarch and let someone more capable take her place. Su Ruowan naturally refused. If her mother lost her status as matriarch, her own position would revert to that of a concubine's daughter. By birth alone, she would remain beneath my feet for the rest of her life. Su Ruowan panicked, yet forced herself to remain composed as she issued a threat. Just you wait. Once you marry into the Pei family, you won't be able to strut around anymore. The Pei family is poor, and every member is a bore. I'll make you beg me on your knees. Besides, the Prince of Nanyang said. Mid-sentence, she caught my expression and abruptly halted, her gaze probing mine as she stammered. She was wary of me. Seems my elder sister still doesn't know I've reincarnated too. Facing her provocation, I smiled calmly. Is that so? Then we'll see. On my wedding day, gongs and drums resounded, the atmosphere bustling with excitement. Pei-hee rode a tall horse, leading the way before the bridal sedan chair, escorting me home. After the wedding mistress completed all the formalities in the bridal chamber, she urged the groom to go out and drink. Before leaving, Pei-hee lowered his head and whispered to me beneath the red veil. Once we're alone in the chamber, Miss Sue needn't hold back. Today's formalities are tedious. I'll have a servant bring you food shortly. Should you require anything, send for me at any time. Though I couldn't see his face beneath the veil, I knew he must be blushing fiercely. I nodded reassuringly. Soon after, someone indeed brought in a tray of food. Seeing the pastries and pork knuckles in the food box, Chun Tao, the maid who'd grown up with me since childhood, teased me. The groom really is afraid you'll go hungry. I'd risen before dawn today to dress and perform the rituals. And aside from that bite of dumpling and cup of wedding wine earlier, I hadn't eaten a thing. To say I wasn't hungry would be a lie. Just then, my stomach growled quite opportunely. Chun Tao covered her mouth and chuckled. If you're hungry, just eat, miss. Your husband doesn't seem like the unreasonable type. Overcome by hunger, I lifted my veil, ready to dig in. But just as I lifted a piece of pork hock to my mouth, the door swung open. Meat in my mouth. Pei-hee stood outside. We stared at each other. Damn it. If I'd known, I would have waited longer. Chun Tao glanced at me, then at Pei-hee. Finding the scene awkward, she quickly slipped away. Before leaving, she thoughtfully closed the door behind her. Pei-hee must have sensed my awkwardness, for he sat down and picked up his chopsticks. I didn't quite fill myself at the banquet earlier. I really wanted to tell Pei-hee that he wasn't actually lying at all, but I didn't call him out on it. I just nodded. After finishing our meal, we sat on the bed, still silent. After a long while, when the night watchman's call sounded outside, Pei-hee suddenly rose, fetched a basin of water from outside, and bent down to remove my boots. At home, I'd only ever seen my mother wash my father's feet. Not even his beloved second wife, Lady Sue, had ever been attended to by him in such a manner. I instinctively drew my leg back, but Pei-hee gently took my foot and placed it in the basin. His fingertips slowly traced the arch of my foot, carefully massaging each toe. The sensation was strangely pleasant. Why is Miss Sue looking at me like that? I asked. Why are you washing my feet? Pei-hee looked puzzled, finding my question out of the blue. Today's ceremonies were numerous. Miss Sue, with your elaborate attire and frequent bows, must your feet ache? He hadn't grasped the implication in my words, and his expression seemed genuinely sincere. Suddenly, he struck me as a bit slow, yet somehow endearing. I couldn't understand why. In my past life, my proper elder sister had called him a weakling. After removing our hairpins and ornaments, we lay down on the bed. Once the oil lamp was extinguished, only a few red candles flickered their light within the room. The candlelight danced. A gentle breeze tapped lightly on the doors and windows, mingling with the tinkling of the bed bell throughout the night. I slept soundly, exhausted from the previous night. I rose rather late. When I went to pay respects to my mother-in-law, she was already seated in the main hall. In my past life, my elder sister would return to her parents' home every few days to weep and complain about how coarse and uncouth this mother-in-law was. Later, she even miscarried after establishing household rules, subconsciously warning me that this mother-in-law was difficult to deal with. Sure enough, the moment Pei-hee and I entered, her face darkened. You come from a prominent family, yet you don't even know basic etiquette? Before I could speak, Pei took my hand and apologized to her. It was my son who asked Tanger to sleep in. My mother-in-law opened her mouth but ultimately said nothing more. Then came the tea ceremony. When I respectfully offered the hot tea to my mother-in-law, she acted as if she hadn't heard me. I was still bent over, but she just let me stand there. Last night had been rough, and my back was already sore. Now she was giving me a taste of her authority. My legs went weak, and I nearly fell. Pei swiftly caught me in his arms. Frowning, he snatched the teacup from my hands and slammed it onto the tea table, barking, "Mother, what exactly are you trying to do?" Pei pulled a brocade box from his sleeve and tossed it onto the table. "How thoughtful of Tanger to remember you and prepare a gift for your meeting." Startled, the mother-in-law jumped to her feet. Seeing her son's anger, she was a bit bewildered. Glancing at the fine quality bracelet inside the box, she muttered to herself, "Didn't they say daughters from wealthy families look down on us poor folks? Huh? How does this differ from what Aunt Wang told me?" Pei's temper flared at this. "Didn't I tell you, Mother, to minimize contact with her?" The mother-in-law reluctantly fell silent, looking at me with deep regret. She also pulled a brocade box from her sleeve, revealing a pair of vermilion agate earrings inside. "My dear daughter-in-law, I didn't mean it that way. Then she flung her sleeves dramatically, her face etched with regret. "Oh dear. I knew you wouldn't come to pay your respects. In my past life, I only knew this mother-in-law had a boisterous temperament, and my elder sister often compared her to a coarse village woman. But I recall my elder sister, relying on her noble status, didn't even offer tea or greet her mother-in-law on her second day in the Pei household. Clearly, she provoked others first. No wonder mother-in-law kept sabotaging her. I know my elder sister's nature, always fawning on the high and trampling the low, acting so haughtily. Though my mother-in-law is an elder, she never flaunted her seniority or acted like a know-it-all. When she made a mistake, she proactively apologized to me. Before she could even eat, she rolled up her sleeves and went to settle accounts with Aunt Wang. Aunt Wang, what kind of rotten idea did you come up with? Yesterday your grandson stole eggs from my chicken coop. Give them back now." My mother-in-law truly is straightforward. Watching his fiery mother, Pei patted my hand awkwardly. "You'll get used to it eventually. I've come to see that my mother-in-law is someone who clearly distinguishes right from wrong and remembers every slight. If you treat her well, she remembers it. But if you treat her poorly, she'll repay you tenfold. 100-fold. Indeed. Getting to know someone requires more than just listening. You must observe with your own eyes." Pei's exemplary character didn't come out of nowhere. His mother must have nurtured it with great care. A widow who could raise a gentleman like Pei, how could her own character be anything but admirable? These past few days at home, I've treated my mother-in-law well, and she's genuinely come to accept me as her daughter-in-law. Not only that, she's placed the household management in my hands. In my past life, my elder sister fought with her mother-in-law for half a lifetime yet never gained control of the household. This time around, my mother-in-law handed that power over to me effortlessly. Only by putting oneself in another's shoes can one earn genuine affection. I must truly thank my elder sister for gifting me such a wonderful in-law family. Speaking of my elder sister, I wonder what expression she would wear if she saw how well I'm doing now. 3 days later, when I returned to my in-laws' home, my mother-in-law, fearing the bumpy journey, had several layers of soft cushions laid in the sedan chair. Before departure, she specifically instructed the coachman to drive slowly, fearing I might bump or jolt. She also lectured Pei repeatedly, giving detailed instructions at every turn, as if afraid I might not return after this visit. After bowing to my mother, I entered the sedan chair and signaled her to wait for my return. Only then did my mother-in-law relent. Truthfully, Her worries were unwarranted. That household was a den of dragons and tigers, having barely escaped its clutches. Why would I willingly leap back in? On the day of my return visit, our family's double-horse sedan chair happened to be broken. We traveled in a single-horse carriage instead. No sooner had I dismounted than my elder sister, glancing at my palanquin, sneered. "Sister, life as a peasant woman must be rather rough." You're getting worse with age," I retorted. "You shouldn't have married Scholar Pay just because he's handsome. If you ask me, a marriage between equals is far better." She tried to intimidate me the moment I returned, but I wouldn't let her bully me. I took Peihi's arm and deliberately ignored her, feigning distress. "Husband, why did mother-in-law hand over the household management to me? I've barely been married a day." Sigh. I've seen wives in other families never get to run the household their entire lives. Peihi, being straightforward, genuinely thought I was distressed and hurried to comfort me. "Mother trusts you. If you find it too burdensome, once we return, I'll hire several capable maids and matrons to assist you. Those mothers-in-law who refuse to relinquish household authority do so because their daughters-in-law are unfit for the role. With your intelligence, Mother truly believes you're up to the task." Peihi been better off keeping quiet. His words accidentally struck my elder sister's heart like an arrow. Her face turned green with fury. Peihi helped me down from the carriage. Noticing dust on my shoe, he bent down himself and wiped it clean with a handkerchief. I curved my lips. Peihi truly had keen eyes. My elder sister wanted to see me humiliated, but I wouldn't grant her that satisfaction. With my mother-in-law trusting me and my husband treating me well, my elder sister was furious at the sight. "Laugh. Laugh. Laugh. Just wait until I marry into a prestigious family, then see if you can still laugh." A grand marriage. For my elder sister to boast so confidently in public. Had she already secured the Nanyang prince as her suitor? Upon entering, I found it to be true. The inner courtyard beyond the second gate was filled to the brim with betrothal gifts, none other than those brought by the Nanyang prince. My elder sister deliberately chose the day of my return visit to have the Nanyang prince present his betrothal gifts, aiming to outshine me. But she seemed unaware that among those gifts was a box containing a rare beauty fan. Its panels were all made from skin flayed by the Prince of Nanyang himself, from those women. Fool. She truly believed she'd scored a great bargain. When my elder sister saw me staring at the fan's beauty panels, she thought I was envious. She snatched the fan and waved it triumphantly in my face. "What? Jealous? Well, a poor family like the Pays probably couldn't afford such an expensive fan anyway." Su Ruowan tossed the fan to the ground as if dismissing a beggar. "Fine. Since you're staring so longingly, and we are sisters after all, I'll just give it to you." The maids in the courtyard giggled behind covered lips, mocking my poor marriage despite being a legitimate daughter. "Hurry and pick it up. This fan smells so sweet." Watching Su Ruowan's smug expression, I let out a cold laugh. Yes, it certainly does smell sweet. How could it not? When the fan's surface was made from the face of a girl in the prime of her youth? All know the Prince of Nanyang lusts after beauty, yet none know his twisted vice. He delights in flaying disobedient women alive, then using their faces as fan surfaces. In my past life, my misfortune was catching his eye. Had I known the prince's true nature, I'd have never stepped outside that day, even if it meant my death. He particularly relished torturing people with inhuman methods, as if he found the shrill screams of women to be heavenly music. The Prince of Nanyang possessed a volatile temperament, his moods as unpredictable as the shifting clouds. In my previous life, my days within the prince's mansion were spent walking on eggshells. My elder sister saw only my outward glamour, unaware of the countless perverse tortures I endured in private. I avoided the Prince of Nanyang like a venomous snake, while my elder sister fancied the mansion as a coveted prize, vying to marry into it. I looked at her with pity. yet kept the truth hidden. Su Ruoan harbored deep malice toward me in both lifetimes. Why should I play the fool? I pressed my lips together and refused with absolute certainty. Not interested. Ignoring my elder sister's astonished expression, I kicked the fan away with my foot and took Peihi's arm as we entered the house. Thankfully, I got a second chance. Since you're so eager to play the princess, I'll grant you your wish. During today's visit to my parents' home, I repeatedly put Su Ruoan in her place. Realizing she was getting nowhere, she stopped trying to provoke me. We had barely finished lunch before we turned back toward the estate. This household was nothing but insincerity. Father favored my elder sister, and the marriage arranged for me was one she had rejected. Staying here another moment felt utterly pointless. On the way home, Peihi noticed my despondency. He patted my hand and whispered softly, "From now on, I will treat you well." I turned my head and smiled at him. A blessing in disguise. The Pei family treated me exceptionally well. Unlike in my previous life, I wasn't poisoned into silence nor tormented by the Prince of Nanyang. How could this not be considered sweetness after bitterness? My stepmother, fearing my elder sister would suffer in the prince's household, provided her with a lavish dowry. Among the gifts were jewels my birth mother had brought upon her marriage and items that should have been part of my own dowry. When I married, my stepmother gave me only a few estates and shops, claiming I had married beneath my station and needed no more. Using my mother's possessions to bolster my elder sister's position, how could such a thing be possible? I care not for what is not mine. Not a single coin or thread. But what rightfully belongs to me, I shall reclaim. I protested several times, only to be rebuffed by my stepmother on the grounds that I was a married woman. Since they show no shame, I need show them no mercy. I spread the news throughout the village about how they coveted my mother's inheritance and how father favored his concubine over his wife. Soon, the entire capital was abuzz with tales of Su Ruoan and her daughter's wicked deeds. As a court official, father feared nothing more than rumors. A single blemish on his reputation could easily snowball into a catastrophic disaster. Upon learning of this, he flew into a rage and severely reprimanded my stepmother. To preserve his reputation, he publicly ordered the stepmother not only to return all my belongings but also to kneel in the ancestral hall for reflection. I finally reclaimed what rightfully belonged to me. After hearing this, Peihi massaged his temples for me. "My lady, you're far too kind-hearted. If it were me, I'd compile their misdeeds into a book and recite it in every tea house. I'd spend extra silver to hire a troupe to perform it for 10 days and nights straight. Once their faces were utterly ruined, I wouldn't just make them return everything, I'd make them cry and beg to give it back to you." I looked at Peihi, surprised to discover such a cunning side beneath his seemingly pure and kind exterior. Peihi flushed crimson under my gaze and turned away. Embarrassed. "Madam, why are you looking at me like that?" I clapped my hands. I had to admit it. That move. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Truly a scholar, his mind works with such agility. What nonsense about Peihi being all show and no substance. Now just another face in the crowd? I refused to believe my elder sister's claims from my past life. In that life, after Peihi passed the scholar official exam, he achieved no further honors. His mother-in-law and elder sister never got along, and the constant chaos at home was enough to drive him mad. How could he possibly focus on his studies? As Peihi continued massaging my temples, I suddenly pressed his hand and said solemnly, "Husband, from now on, let's sleep in separate rooms." Peihi thought his earlier words had frightened me, but I shook my head. "I mean, I don't want to disturb your studies. After all, the provincial exams are approaching, and you need to focus on preparing." The moment the words left my mouth, Peihi's face fell. He looked utterly dejected as he pleaded, "Can't we just sleep together? I won't be distracted." Seeing his pitiful expression, And remembering how well I got along with my mother-in-law in this lifetime, my heart softened. Reluctantly, I relented. All right. Fine. The consequence of my concession was a sleepless night. My back ached and my body was sore. While Pei He, the instigator of this whole mess, was sleeping in, I kicked him off the bed. No way. We must sleep in separate rooms. You can come back after the exams are over. If this continued, regardless of whether Pei He could keep his mind focused, I knew that if I kept being so reckless, I'd end up with kidney deficiency sooner or later. The day Pei He took the provincial exams coincided with my elder sister's wedding. Already beautiful and a favored concubine, the Nanyang prince had arranged a grand ceremony, showering her with honor. Little did anyone know the ordeal awaiting Su Ruoan. On the day the examination results were posted, my mother-in-law and I went early to see the list. As expected, Pei He's name was there. When the banquet was held, my elder sister came too. But she came alone. I heard the Prince of Nanyang had recently taken in several new courtesans and spent his days mingling with them. My elder sister had been married for only a few months. Yet she was a completely different person from her days in the maidens' quarters. Though she wore splendid robes, her entire body draped in exquisite brocades and satins, adorned with the most exquisite hairpins and makeup, even this could not conceal the weariness etched upon her face. When someone accidentally shattered a wine cup at the banquet, the eldest sister sprang to her feet as if startled by a shadow. "Don't hit me!" The crowd froze. Her maid, embarrassed by the outburst, tugged at her sleeve with disdain. Lady Wan. Only then did the eldest sister regain her senses. The young maid offered a clumsy explanation. Perhaps Lady Wan was startled by recalling last night's dream. "We apologize for disturbing you all." Seeing the eldest sister's distracted state, I knew she had already witnessed the torture chambers of the Nanyang prince's mansion. Beneath the mansion lay a secret chamber reserved solely for the prince's pleasure. Hundreds of young girls were bound there, while countless torture instruments lined the walls. The Prince of Nanyang took the greatest pleasure in tormenting people with these instruments, delighting in their cries for mercy. My elder sister, pampered since childhood, had never witnessed such horrors. It was no wonder she was now so terrified. Yet beneath her terror lay an ingrained contempt for the poor. Perhaps to mask her own embarrassment, she began nitpicking at my husband and me. She complained the feast was meager, accusing us of stinginess and carelessness. She criticized the courtyard as shabby, not even a fraction as splendid as the Nanyang prince's estate. Even birds passing by drew her scornful remarks. She proceeded to criticize every member of our family. Spotting her mother-in-law approaching from afar, she instinctively hurled another insult. How could that old hag possibly wear such a fine bracelet? She must have bought a fake to pretend she's rich. Just a cheap country bumpkin. The moment the eldest sister finished speaking, her mother-in-law slapped her across the face. Everyone was stunned. Not content with just hitting her, she grabbed her hair. "This bracelet was given to me by my dear daughter-in-law. Try spewing more filth. Since you call me a country bumpkin, I'll show you what a real bully looks like." The mother-in-law immediately seized Su Ruowan's hair and clothes, smearing her face with her hands. Before long, the elder sister's hair was disheveled, her makeup smeared, and she was held down by her mother-in-law, begging for mercy. Only when someone pulled them apart did the violence cease. The mother-in-law released her, spat at her, and sneered. "Pa, what kind of person are you? I called you a scallion, and you actually think you're a dish served on the table. I invited you to this banquet out of family duty. If you utter another word, I'll slap you again. What are you staring at? Got a problem? Keep it to yourself." My mother-in-law had always spoken softly in front of me. This was the first time I'd seen her like this. "Wow, mother-in-law, you're fierce." I need to learn the skill from her, resorting to violence instead of words. The eldest sister, humiliated here, stormed off in a huff with a dark face. Without Su Ruowan's sarcastic sniping, even the food tasted much better. Of course, mother-in-law wasn't truly unafraid of the eldest sister. After all, she was the esteemed concubine of the Prince of Nanyang, a member of the imperial court's official family. After the banquet ended, mother-in-law asked me with lingering fear if Su Ruowan would report us to the Prince of Nanyang and seek retribution. I patted her hand reassuringly. Don't worry. She wouldn't dare. The Prince of Nanyang detests troublemakers. If he learned Su Ruowan was so restless, she'd likely be the first to lose her life. So, my elder sister will just have to swallow her pride and keep today's events to herself. My mother-in-law exhaled. That's a relief. I don't know what came over me. Seeing your sister just made me grind my teeth. I kept wanting to teach her a lesson. I smiled but said nothing. I thought, perhaps this was the bloodline suppression left over from my previous life. After he passed the provincial exams. He moved back into the house. Barely a month later, I was diagnosed with pregnancy. Watching him tear up with joy, his nose running as he gently traced my still flat belly, I felt a wave of embarrassment. My husband acts like a big, clumsy oaf. We kept my pregnancy quiet until the 3rd month, when the fetus was stable, before spreading the news. Though my mother-in-law was a rough-and-tumble sort, she always cared for me and the baby with great attention. My morning sickness was severe, and she would scour the entire capital to find me the sweetest plums. Since marrying into the family, I'd never done much housework, and now that I was pregnant, she wouldn't let me lift a finger. She handled every household matter, big or small, leaving me to rest and nurture the baby. In my past life, my elder sister looked down on her for being from the countryside, treating her with disdain. With such a wonderful mother-in-law, she didn't know how to cherish her. She was truly blind. When father celebrated his birthday, my sister and I, accompanied by our husbands, returned home to visit. When I saw my elder sister again, she seemed to have aged several years, though she also appeared much fuller-figured. It turned out Su Ruowan was also expecting. Father beamed with joy, declaring 3 blessings had come upon the family. He drank a few extra cups at the banquet and soon became intoxicated. Mother helped father retire to rest, leaving us younger ones to watch the opera on the stage. Though the Prince of Nanyang sat beside my elder sister, his gaze kept drifting toward the young actress on stage. It seemed he had set his sights on another maiden. Even though Su Ruowan saw this, she could do nothing about it. After all, she had been married into the princely household for less than a year, and the Prince of Nanyang had already taken in 2 or 3 dozen beautiful concubines. He and I sat across from them. Even from a distance, I could detect the scent of mugwort emanating from my elder sister. She was 2 months ahead of me in pregnancy, yet she was still fumigating with mugwort at 5 months, a clear sign of miscarriage. Suddenly, I recalled my past life. I too had conceived shortly after marrying into the Prince of Nanyang's household. Only that child wasn't his. Just like this child, Su Ruowan didn't know who the father of the baby in her womb was. A major reason for the Prince of Nanyang's volatile temper was his impotence. For a royal prince, possessing only noble status yet being impotent was a laughingstock. Without an heir, he would not only be mocked by the imperial clan but also forfeit any chance of succession. Naturally, the Prince of Nanyang refused to accept this. Years of repression and powerlessness cultivated his twisted pleasure in abusing women. Hearing their pleas for mercy seemed to soothe his own tormented soul. To deceive others, he ordered a dozen burly men to take turns raping his concubines, solely to ensure they conceived. Those who resisted were dragged into dark chambers, strangled, tortured, and killed. The thought sent shivers down my spine, making me retch uncontrollably. Had I not been obedient and cautious in my previous life, my body would likely have ended up as a fan leaf in that beauty's collection. But my elder sister, arrogant and tyrannical since childhood, believing herself heaven's favored daughter, had reached her limit in enduring this madness without snapping. Lifting my gaze, I met her eyes, her stare as fierce as a wolf's, fixed on me. Sensing grave danger, I quickly found an excuse to lead Peihi away from the stage. But before I could take 2 steps, my elder sister sprang up, grabbed my sleeve, and shoved me toward the lake. Su Ruatang. Go to hell. Why? After being reborn, do you still live better than me? No one could have anticipated Su Ruawan suddenly snapping. Caught off guard, I was shoved into the lake. Before hitting the water, I clutched my elder sister's clothes tightly. If I must die, I'll take someone down with me. The icy lake water rose to my neck, bone-chilling cold seeping through my body. My elder sister grabbed my ankles in the water, dragging me down. Like a landlubber, I was helplessly pulled along. She'd pushed me with all her strength, and now she was pulling with equal force. She never intended for me to live. But why? The path she chose in her past life was her own. This life, too, was her choice. Heaven had already granted her a second chance. She herself was talentless, unprincipled, and incompetent. What right did she have to take her anger out on me? No. I must live. I have a mother-in-law who loves me, a husband who protects me, and a child within me I have yet to meet. I must live. The next second, I kicked backward with all my might, sending my elder sister crashing to the lake bottom. But I wasn't much better off myself. The winter lake water was bone-chilling cold. Add to that my inability to swim and my pregnancy, and my strength quickly drained away. Water flooded my ears and throat. Before losing consciousness, I saw a familiar figure swimming toward me. My elder sister lost her child. She had always been prone to miscarriage, and after soaking in the icy lake for so long, there was no way to save the baby. When she woke up, she went mad. To be precise, she had already lost her mind the moment she pushed me into the water. She began raving, pleading with heaven for another chance while cursing me as wicked. But elder sister, it was you who craved wealth and honor. How could such an outcome possibly be my fault? My elder sister, now utterly deranged, exposed every sordid secret of the Nanyang prince's mansion. Enraged beyond measure, the prince poisoned her with a cup of mutinous potion. Just like my past self, she could never speak again. Yet even so, it was far too late. The rumors had already reached His Majesty's ears. The emperor dispatched officials to investigate the Nanyang prince's residence. They discovered the secret underground chamber and rescued numerous young girls from within. Seeing the prince's downfall, commoners joined forces, petitioning the court with heartrending accounts of their own daughters being abducted. The Nanyang prince's reputation was utterly ruined. The emperor flew into a rage, deeming mere decapitation too lenient for such an egregious crime. Instead, he ordered the prince exiled to the frigid frontier, condemning him to endure the relentless biting cold day after day. Forbidden to return to the capital without imperial summons. His once illustrious elder sister, now deranged, was rejected by their father who, seeking to salvage his reputation, also divorced her concubine, Xian Shu. On a dark and stormy night, the elder sister found a dry well and leapt in. Her dying words echoed, "Next life. Next life. I'll choose differently." Perhaps she felt this life was too bitter, and this was her liberation, or perhaps she believed she could start anew. But where in this world could such a blessing exist? The day my water broke was a warm afternoon. We had just finished lunch when the little one inside me couldn't wait any longer to see the world. My mother-in-law had been counting the days, but she never imagined this little one would arrive early. Fortunately, My mother-in-law had already arranged for a midwife and skilled obstetrician at home. Even with the sudden rupture, they weren't caught off guard. Inside, the midwife directed my pushing. Outside, Pei listened to my screams and kept shouting. Stop! Stop! We can't do this! Ruitang! We can't do this! Let me in! Tanger must be in terrible pain, let me see her. After a while, my cries grew fainter. The midwife emerged from the delivery room, her hands stained with blood. Seeing this, Pei panicked. Save the mother! Forget the baby! I want to save the mother. The midwife stood outside, utterly bewildered. The baby's already out, what do you mean? Save the mother? Then, a clear, bright infant's cry echoed from the delivery room. Hearing the words mother and child are safe, Pei's heart finally settled. He slumped down, utterly drained, as if he himself had just given birth with every ounce of strength. His mother-in-law, however, remained remarkably composed. She looked at Pei with disdain. What a pathetic sight. Aren't both mother and child just fine? Pei quickly wiped away tears and rushed back into the delivery room. Mother is right. You're the steady one. Of course. That was before I saw mother-in-law nearly collapse from weakness the moment she stepped inside. We named the child Pei Wang meaning hope. I hope his life will be smooth and worry-free. I hope he remains unmoved by temptation, untouched by praise or blame. I hope he grows up safe and healthy. Many years later, I had a dream. It felt as though I had returned to my youth. When father asked me to choose a husband between Pei and a man of high standing, I said, this time, I still choose that poor scholar. The end.